Hey, thanks for coming to check out this episode of Defining Success with Marion. Please take a second and just hit subscribe. It will really help for the success of this podcast. And also, if you'd like to define success in your own life or have a conversation about how to achieve it, please reach out. I'd love to chat with you. Thanks and enjoy the episode. Welcome to Defining Success. I am so honored to introduce today's guest, Tevia Celli. It's been way too long for this to happen, and it really is truly, I just want to repeat it, it is an honor to have you here. I don't even know where to go from there, except to say that thank you for doing this. This is going to be effing awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and it's all about how our paths have always crossed. And I think that's amazing that in this now decade and time that it's crossed again.
Totally. And I am so excited. And to introduce our listeners to you, although I'm sure most know who you are and all of the incredible work that you've done and given to our industry, I'm just going to read a quick bio. And to be clear, I'm going to read two things. One is Tevia's her description of herself and her accomplishments. And then the other, I'm just going to run through a couple of quick bullet points because I just feel I need to. So here we go. Tevia is a wellness coach, a consultant and experienced strategist with deep roots in the boutique fitness industry. With over 28 years in the fitness industry, she has led instructor training, studio experience, and brand culture at the national level, and now works with wellness brands, studios, gyms, and leaders to build meaningful, community-centered programs and experiences. Tevia blends performance coaching, behavior change science, and human connection to help people and organizations grow with purpose, energy, and authenticity. Now, I just want to take a second and just say that Tevia opened the first boutique indoor cycling studio in 1998 in LA, Body&Soul. Obviously, we're going to talk about that. But she also helped design the experience offering for CycleBar, which went on to open a mind-blowing 250 locations. And lastly, maybe most importantly, Tevia has been able to successfully manage MS with a plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle as a wife and a mom for 21 years. So it's like, but if it's all right, I want to go way back. Way back. Because in all these years, I didn't know until recently that you started as a PI.
I did.
So let's go back, and you need to please share, where'd that inspiration come from? Who was the Tevia that wanted to be a PI, that became a PI? Where'd you grow up? Let's go deep.
So let's go way back. I never envisioned or wanted to be a private investigator. That just kind of fell into my place. As I think everything that I've ever accomplished it just falls in, and you're like, oh, okay. I went to college, not wanting to be an investigator. I got a job interning while I was in college at Rockwell International, the Rocketdyne division. And so when I graduated college, I became when I was interning, I was a material analyst, which I would analyze the bills of material for the space station. And then I went on to take a job working at Rocketdyne for 1 year exactly. Because when I became a full-time employee, it was a different experience. And I was, I could work 80 hours in a week. They worked us to death. If we had a deadline a budget deadline, we worked, 15 hours a day, no overtime, salary, overtime exempt. And I was just dead, literally dead inside. And I went to my dad, who was a president of a company, and I said, I got to quit. I can't do this. And he said, you got to wait 1 year. I'm like, what? And he goes, you have to wait 1 year. I look at resumes all the time. And the one thing I look at, if someone can't stay with something for 1 year, I just throw that resume in the trash. So I said, okay. And during that time, I was also, I was adopted. So, and my birth parents were, my adoptive parents were amazing. And so I was very lucky, but I wanted to find my birth parents. It was something I always wanted to do. My sister was adopted. She had found hers. So as I started to do that, I got to this point. I did this crazy dive and it was really fun. And then I got to a point where I had to hire a private investigator to do a couple things for me. And so when I did that, he said to me, wow, how did you get this? And how did you get that? And I said, I just, called this person, said I was this. And he's like, come work for me.
No,
there's not enough female investigators. You have it in you. And
oh my gosh.
I said, I can't do that. I have 3 more months that I have to stay at my job because my dad told me that I had to stay at my job. And he goes, it's not going to matter. You're going to come work for me. I don't care if you've only been there, 8, 9 months. And so I said, no, I got to listen to my dad. So I waited and I literally walked into, Rocketdyne, gave my letter of resignation on my 1 year anniversary. And that was it. And then I took a little bit of time off just to unwind because it was really a crazy time for me. And then I went to work for him. And during that time, it was unbelievably crazy, chaotic. I grew up outside of LA in Burbank. It's a nice, quiet town. We don't see a lot of crazy stuff happening here. And all of a sudden, at 25 years old, I think I was 24. My eyes were open to things that I could never imagine happening. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was edgy. It was cool. Pissed my parents off just a little bit, which was fun. And then, I ended up working for him for 3 years, a little over 3 years. I had to have 3 years, 6,000 hours of experience before I could take my test with the state of California to become a licensed private investigator. And as soon as I did that, I was like, thanks so much. Boom, opened my own business. Brought on a bunch of people, took a couple of friends that I met along the way, started my own company. And, it was a great time. It was also, it's a dark industry to be in, right? You see the worst in people. Yeah. And I can't, at least I'm not in that phase anymore, but you give me something to figure out. That investigative mind has stuck with me. I'm always figuring out stuff because I want to. It's intriguing to me.
Okay, wait, hold on one sec. I have so many questions. Hold on. Okay. First, what was the name of your company?
Celli Investigations.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Actually, on a personal, did you ever find your birth parents?
I did. I found my birth mother, met her. I have a couple half sisters and a half brother. I don't talk to her. I think that I do talk to 2 of my half siblings I stay in touch with that I met. But she was a very troubled woman. Mm-hmm. And a couple years of being in touch, it just was like, this is not good. Yeah, this is not good for me. I have, I had the best mom I could ever ask for. She was just truly amazing. And, Mom, I want to become I want to open my own business, do it, and she was a trailblazer growing up. She was in the 70s, had a nail business that she owned, and then she sold that, and then she had a consignment store where her and her best friend opened a consignment shop back in, I think that was like 1977. And there wasn't a lot of women, business owners back then. And so she kind of gave me that entrepreneurial brain that I could pretty much do anything. So the PI business was great, but along the way, it just got dark, and I fell in love with indoor cycling.
Yeah. So, and I just I don't want to forget this thought that I had, which is, it's so interesting to me because, and I know we'll talk more about this, but as a group exercise instructor in general, but in particular, since we're, in the lane, indoor cycling, to be, and I know we agree here, of course we do, to really be at that level, right? You have to be curious about people. You have to want to know about the people in your room. So when I found out that you were PI, I was like, that's so genius. It's in your DNA to want to know about people and their lives and the details, those small details, and it's just so interesting to me, that connection there. So, okay, thank you for sharing all that, because it's just so inspiring to hear that you had your own private investigative business.
I also had a rabbit, a little bunny named Bosley, that I named after Charlie's Angels. And Bosley would go on surveillance with me, and he was litter box trained. He was my companion, and back in those days, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all the luxuries that private investigators have now. You had to literally sit in a car, and, sometimes we didn't have cell phones to record from. We had true big video cameras with the big tapes.
Right. Oh
Nuts.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so funny to think about that. So, which actually is interesting to hear you mention that, sitting in a car. I imagine the lifestyle wasn't really one of health and wellness. And
oh no, I smoked cigarettes. I, would get up and leave the house at 3, stop, there wasn't such thing as Starbucks back then. We'd stop at 7-Eleven and get a big coffee. And, remember the Hostess donut? Yeah. Those that are not the frosted sugar ones, but I think they were a cinnamon crumble. I get a 6-pack of those little tiny things, and sunflower seeds and, Marlboro Lights. And that's what you would do. Right. Yeah. It was interesting time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now let's talk about how you discovered your first, we called it spinning then, right?
Yeah.
Your first spin class.
Yeah. I was in a very long-term relationship with Janet Fitzgerald, who's amazing. She's still a senior instructor, was the VP of training for Soul Cycle for many years. She decided to drag me to a class that I was out of breath, awful. Never again. I was not a gym person. I was a softball player, and it is not my jam. But I went to the parking lot. I threw up after. I just so bad. And then I went back. I said I would go back again for the sake of our relationship, because she was training to be an instructor, and it was a dump, this place. And there was an instructor, Georgianne Nickel, and she played Pearl Jam's Better Man. And I was like, this is it. It was all of a sudden in my brain, this is your thing. You found it. And so luckily, Janet started teaching at this place called Todd Tramp's. And it was this prefabbed building that was utterly disgusting. It was almost I guess it was, in a sense, like a trailer, but we were spinning on carpet. It had wall unit air conditioners in LA. Like, you can't have that in a workout facility, especially high impact or high cardio aerobic activity, like where you are breathing heavily and whatever. But it was awful. But, Janet was so brilliant, and she still is brilliant when it comes to music. And, she was able to rope me in so much that I never missed a class. And I think she was teaching like 7 classes a week, because the music, she'd throw a little bit of something for everyone in there. So I never felt like, what was that? I hate this music.
Right.
Or, it always felt good. And also, she was just incredibly motivational and inspiring. So that was awesome, to be in that group environment. And mind you, I had been I was at the time a private investigator, and I often spent most of my workday alone.
Right.
Right. I was on, outside looking in. So to be in a group of 50 people, and building this little community that she miraculously built there, it was really amazing. And so I loved it a lot, so much. And then, decided with, you want me to tell a story? The story, what really launched Body and Soul was we were in the middle of a class, and there were, I don't know how many celebrities in that room, a lot, but one of the ceiling tiles fell off in the middle of class. And it was, it was supposed to be this thick, but because of all the moisture and stuff and the mold in it, it was like this thick.
Yeah.
And it broke off into pieces. And I happened
During the class?
During the class. And so, but God bless Janet. She kept going.
Yeah.
And she just was not going to let it be a distraction. And so we all just kept pedaling, because we didn't want Janet to yell at us. But after the class, I'd ride next to a guy named Richard Nanula, and he was at the time a CFO for Disney. And he just looked at me and goes, we deserve better than this. Like, we should be doing this in like the Four Seasons, of like a place that is like, the Four Seasons. Yeah. And so that's kind of how it all, it sparked. And, there hadn't been a boutique indoor cycling studio yet that was high end. And we just went there. We got the designer Dodd Mitchell, who just designed Sushi Roku. And like, he came in and made it all zen and really cool. And we had like bamboo growing on the windowsills and, soju panels. And we put in this crazy air conditioning system that recycled the air every 6 minutes. And it was waterfalls in the hallway. It was bananas what we did.
And you guys had a killer location.
We had a really great location.
Yeah.
But that's how it was, made. And, look, Janet was so gifted at what she was able to build. And, I look at Janet now and, she's still selling out classes all the time. And, at her age, when you're in your 50s and you're selling out classes and you see all these other instructors struggling to fill, Janet teaches spin, man. She teaches, it's not crazy. It's not chaotic. It's about moving to the beat of the music and just forgetting about everything else when you walk in the door. And I think that's why she's so successful. I never dreamed of being an indoor cycling instructor. Even when we opened it, that was never going to be my job. My job was going to be running the place.
Right. So did you give up your...
I did. I ended up giving it to my guys that worked. Well, we did this little sale, but I gave it to my guys, and I stayed on, and I had to wait till someone got their license finally, and they were, and then just say goodbye. But I still talk to one of them all the time,
awesome.
and yeah, I never wanted to be an indoor cycling instructor because I was, again, on the outside looking in. I always felt that I was a little goofy looking. I'm short. I've got these short little legs, this long body. It's probably why I have a dachshund. They say you resemble your dog. That's the dog I resemble. So I wasn't that, in the 90s, everybody was like, all the great instructors were like 5'8". They were skinny, long, they just perfect bodies, right? That was not me. So I never thought in a million years I would teach a class until Stacy Griffith, God bless her for this. She didn't make her class one morning. It was at a time when Stacy was dabbling into things that she no longer does and hasn't for many, many years. But by the way, Stacy won again, one of the top 5 instructors ever.
Yes.
I mean,
still going strong
and just an amazing human being. So, she missed her class. It was sold out. And she taught before Janet. And Janet, I called Janet. I'm like, you got to come down and teach this class. She goes, oh, no, I'm not teaching it. You teach it. I'm like, me? I'm not teaching it. She goes, you ride the bike all the time for me. You can teach it. Use my use my CD from yesterday. And we had, we'd burn CDs back then. And you know what to do. And as a business owner, I was like,
right.
Okay. So I went in, I had to give myself a moment to figure out even how, I had the mic on backwards. I mean, it was bad. And so then figured it out, got up there, and I don't know what happened, but everyone was like, oh my God, that was so good. You need to teach. And so that's kind of how the Tevia spin instructor was born, was out of that into this craziness of, hey, now I'm, doing privates with this person and this Nicole Kidman 3 days a week and crazy. Yeah. But I would have never done it had it not been for Stacy.
Wow. What a great full circle type of story. Yeah. And when you say you were doing privates, were you also teaching training off the bike too, or were you actually doing one-on-one cycling training?
Both. I did.
Only an indoor cycling instructor would ask that.
Yeah, I was doing one-on-one indoor cycling coaching. I'd literally be sometimes on the bike next to Shaka, sometimes on the bike next to Nicole, but sometimes off working their form, pushing them, whatever. Yeah. And then, but I also did private training. Mm-hmm. We had a little private training gym where, it was very, very private, a lot of celebrity clientele and a lot of big trainers there.
So I'd love to take a second because, this word boutique kind of it's tossed around so much now. And I'm curious, I've been really curious to ask you about how you've seen that the boutique concept evolve and what it meant to you when you started it and what you see it means today and just where you see it all going.
I think, we were lucky in that time that there was nothing like it. Mind you, there were yoga studios and there were bar studios. I think there were some bar studios, some Pilates, but there was nothing to the level of what we did. I mean, we really made it you were walking into the Four Seasons, right? It was gorgeous, elevated. And back then we opened $20 a class in 1998. Mm-hmm. A lot of money, back then. So it was just I think that at that time, it was new, it was needed. There wasn't anything like it. Mm-hmm. I still think that workout I'll always say, as much as I'm doing other workouts now, there's something to be said that happens in that room. 45 minutes, you just kind of let it all go. It's such a release. And if you have a great instructor, they take you on this journey. I think it's so community driven. Back then, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And now I think I just see that we went all in. We went 100% on every level, right? Every touch point. And I don't think that happens anymore. You walk into a studio, they don't have towels. They went cheap it's just not, people aren't trained right. And I do think it's harder now to get a front desk staff that is as hospitality driven as they were 20 years ago, because this younger generation, and no disrespect, because we're become products of our environment and the time,
right?
But they're so glued to the phone, and they rely on communicating with their phone, that just having a simple conversation with people, and that looking up and eye contact, knowing everyone's name, saying, "Hey, Marion, how are you today? Oh, how's your daughter?" Those things I don't see happening when I walk into studios. It's almost, there's a disconnect. It's just a different experience, I think, now. And I think the phone technology has a lot to do with it. But I also think that it got oversaturated, right? To a point. And I know, in full responsibility, I'm CycleBar oversaturated the indoor cycling between us and Soul. It really did overly saturate the market, which again is going to be a detriment.
Well, yeah, but also in defense of indoor cycling studios, I think the fitness niche is oversaturated. There's just so many choices and options, and like nothing I ever imagined back then. So it is wild. And also, like, there is sort of this trend. Oh my gosh, I can't stand it when you go into one of these studios, or no, not even. Let's say you look at their app or whatever, and you sign up, like, okay, I'll do the free trial, right? And then you get spammed by these texts. Oh my God, there's nothing worse. So it's like, it's just kind of just becomes so oversaturated in that way as well. This like fake community building stuff. So it just kind of, it is interesting to hear you share that, because I'm with you. Like, I think that it's reached a point, and I'm curious, I'm really excited to see what's coming, because, it's just time for something new. Like, I feel like,
Yeah, I think that the resurgence, I mean, you go way back before there were, in the 90s, 80s, 70s, things come back. Everything comes back. Indoor cycling is going to come back so huge at some point. Again, I have no doubt. Just like Pilates is now the place to be. And if you're going to I tell anybody who comes to me and says, should I open an indoor cycling studio? What do you think? And I'm like, no, open a Pilates studio.
Yeah. Like, if you want to be successful tomorrow,
just do that.
Open
a Pilates studio. But
totally.
I think that strength, I think that now with wellness and longevity really taking the forefront, and longevity's never really taken that, right? It's never been there. And with that is, hey, we got to be strong. And so how do we do that? How do we do that? And I think I don't believe in overcomplicating a specific workout like indoor cycling. I don't think, adding this to indoor cycling and this to indoor cycling and this. I mean, next we're going to be doing handstands off the bike, for balancing. No, No.
Yeah.
You know, strength is strength, and you're not going to get it properly and in the right form unless you're doing it off the bike, right? And done correctly. And so I think that I think strength is really at the forefront. I believe in it. And for me, myself, I've never lifted weights as much as I have in the last 2 years. I think it's important. And especially as we age or as I'm aging, I want to be able to keep up with my kids. I want to be able to throw the football. I want to be able to run and catch a catch from my son, who's a quarterback in high school. And I can't do that at 62 if I'm not strong. And I've got to take care of all of it, you know. I think that we often went to the cardio high, almost to the point of you get to this level and now what, right?
Totally.
And so,
I mean, you're so spot on.
And so is it beneficial when you're at this point? I don't think it is, you know, I don't think it is. I'm grateful that I've always done indoor cycling in a way that my hips are great at 62. My knees, other than I did have a fracture of my tibia right at my knee joint. So it's been a longer recovery, but I don't need a hip replacement. I don't need knee replacements. And I've seen so many fellow instructors, indoor cycling instructors, have bilateral hip replacements at 40.
Yeah.
That's nuts. It's crazy. Yeah. But so I've been very lucky in that. But I think that I think that going to that endorphin high rather than catching it, there's just other ways to feel that exhilaration. Like I can feel that exhilaration going in, you know, after like going in this sauna and coming out with the sweat and just releasing, right?
Yes.
So I think there's so many different ways to do it where it doesn't hurt your body in a way. It doesn't take away from the things that are good and lead you to exhaustion. Like I literally led my body to complete exhaustion, which led to, no doubt, the MS diagnosis, because I taught 10, 15 classes a week, and I always am the ride on the bike kind of person. You know, it physically, energetically just depleted myself. And so what did it serve at the end of the day? No one. It certainly didn't. I mean, it did serve some people. They did benefit from it, but it didn't in the long run. It harmed my body.
Yeah. There's a toll. Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll dig more into your MS and how you manage that. But I want to take a second before we get too far away from Body and Soul, because I am curious if you guys ever had discussed opening other locations.
We did a little bit. You know, it was a moment where Julie Rice was a client of ours and her husband got transferred to New York. They moved to New York. She reached out. She's like, oh my God, there's nothing like this in New York.
And just for listeners, Julie Rice is one of the founders of Soul.
So Julie, you know, I sent her, I literally didn't care really. I really liked Julie as you know, at the time, I think Julie's was a smart woman, and she took it and ran, gave her everything. We gave her a full business plan, right? Go for it. And she did. And she was incredibly successful at it. But I didn't know, because I think at that time, I didn't think it, I don't know why I didn't think more. But there was that moment when Julie wanted to do it. And we were like, oh, we'll send our clients to you in New York. You'll send your clients to us. Right.
Right.
And then, you know, of course that at some point didn't happen. But it is what it is. And then, look, out of that relationship, I met Ruth Zuckerman, who is still one of my all-time, like, idol. I idolize her. I think she's such a great person. And I'll say it. I think she got the short end of the stick. I think we all know that. She should have, I'm not going to go too much, but she's amazing. And from that relationship with Julie, I got the introduction to Ruth. And I used to, back in the day, when they first started Soul Cycle, I had this on our website. I had this download file, and every week I would put the newest, coolest songs, and I'd put them up on there. And, that's how really Ruth and I connected, because I think it might have even been in her book. But like realizing the power of music. But I had, one of my clients was Shelley Azoff. God bless her, amazing, fun woman. But her husband, Irving Azoff, is a big music guy. And he would, every week CD would be given to all the radio stations for like the newest release. And it would, every Friday morning, I get it on my bike, what was being released, so I could play it in class. I mean, it's smart to give that to the instructor who can play the music. And then people are like, what was that song?
Totally.
But I'd put up all the music, the cool music to get. And what I did to them. And so that's kind of how Ruth and I bonded over that experience. And then, obviously that's how the whole Flywheel came to light for me, was because Ruth and I, we just bonded through all of it. Mm-hmm. And I think we both had a little bit of, we saw the, how do I say it in the best way and respectful way, but we saw things with Soul Cycle through the same lens. And, at the time, Janet went to work for Soul Cycle, and it was just time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what happened between, or I shouldn't say what happened, but what was the sort of like bridge that, I know you're connected to Ruth, so I understand that, but where did you start with Flywheel? Like, what were you doing?
I started as the creative director for the West Coast. So I was like Ruth, so anything from Texas to California.
So that was like,
and Seattle, 2012. 12? Yeah. And it was a different workout for me because I was never a numbers person. And I'm sure you were in the same boat, right? Because we taught the way hard. And like that transition, because when you
I found it very difficult.
I found it really, really difficult. Yeah. But I also remember in Flywheel LA that you had friends and couples. So-and-so, one of them would go to Flywheel and one would go to Soul, like literally a quarter of a mile from each other. And 8:00 in the morning, someone would be in my class, someone would be in Janet's, whatever, somebody else's class.
Totally.
So, there are people who want that numbers. I am married to someone who is numbers obsessed. When that board goes up, she will die to be in the top 3. Yeah. I will never go on the board if I'm in a class that has metrics. But so it was very hard, I think, for us in the way that we taught.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, just to be clear too, I feel this is important for me at least to say, like, I loved the invention. I loved that they brought it to market. I loved that it was something different and exciting. Yes. And, I thought it was so cool. The torque board, like all that stuff was so cool. Yeah. And I loved just that it was new. And it was just more like it was more like spiritually challenging for me. Like it was just hard to make that transition with my energy. And I really worked at it. It wasn't like I don't like this. It was like, I just need to figure it out, like how to make this work.
100%. And it took
Right?
a while, but I did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the CycleBar opportunity came my way, and,
Yeah.
to have another blank canvas to paint was like,
Totally.
oh, okay. And, brought in both elements, right? The body and soul way of teaching plus the flywheel metrics, so that, because in my head, I was like, oh, I know that there's, these people who like this and people who only like this, and why not have a space where everyone belongs? And we can have some numbers driven classes and some that you don't call out numbers and that there's no competition. So that's kind of was the landscape of and direction that we went with CycleBar. So I was able to initially created 3 classes, and, one had no numbers, one had a little bit of numbers, barely, and then one had full on numbers.
So fun. So when you came on board at CycleBar, where were they? What stage were they in?
They hadn't opened a franchise studio, so they bought a studio in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Bill Pryor and Alex, their studio, brother and sister, greatest humans. I love them. Do you know them?
No, I don't.
They are the greatest. Love them. And then they bought a studio in Royal Oak, Michigan. Different, right? And so they had that way in their minds. And these guys were a bunch of franchising guys. They had no idea, other than one of them said, "Hey, no one's franchised indoor cycling."
Yeah.
So they took the Royal Oak and the Wellesley, and then they opened a studio in Cincinnati, and they decided to name it CycleBar. But if you went to all 3 locations, they all 3 had different bikes. The new location had the metrics. The 2 that they purchased had no metrics. One had Kaiser bikes, one had Schwinn bikes. It was like nothing looked like this. So, and then they were all teaching so many different things. And, one of the guys, Jeff Herr, who was the president of STG, he could sell this as, this is red. It's red and it's juice. And he could go over and hype it up, and lo and behold, people believed that this was red and it was juice. And they started buying these locations because SoulCycle was so big,
Right.
that this is 2014, end of 2014, 2015. And so when I came on, they had sold some locations, but they didn't have a brand. They knew the name, they knew the colors, but there was nothing. I mean, it was so bad that in the flooring was that they put in the studios was indoor pool deck, which you put that with the Delta look clips. I fell the first time walking in there. It was just crazy. So they brought me on, and lo and behold, they kind of pushed out everyone else and let me kind of create what I wanted to create.
Dream. I mean, that's like a dream. That's amazing.
It was great.
Shop.
And then, I did all the discovery days and crazy, and then opened the first franchise location. It was in Indianapolis in October of 2015. And from that point to the end of 2016, I believe we opened 75 locations. By the October of 2017, we had about 110, and that's when Exponential bought us. And then we had all these places already going. Too fast. right? Way too fast. Lessons learned. Like if I were to ever do anything and grow another concept, it would be slow and steady, right?
Yeah.
And I think, look, it was to Soul Cycle's detriment as well. They opened way too many and too close by. And I think, I think that's why they're sustainable now, is because they do have less studios. But I think that if I were ever to do anything else, it would be slow. Let's get this one done. Let's open this one. Let's get it done. Fix what's not working. But, franchising is a beast. And I learned, I knew nothing about franchising when I stepped into there. And I don't think I realized what I was in the middle of until year 2. Like, oh God, it's really challenging, because I loved this so much. I lived and just every breath was about indoor cycling for me. I also, as an owner operator, did everything I needed to do. Even during the market crash in 2008, the things I had to do to make things work. And, I cleaned toilets. I learned I could take apart a Schwinn bike and put it back together. I did so much stuff. And, with franchising, it's not that same love. And then you look at like the top and most amazing franchisees for CycleBar, they love it. It has resonated in their soul. There is something, it's in their blood now, that indoor cycling. And so they have stayed true to the mission, in a sense that they know how to deliver the experience, where you get people who have never even gotten on a bike opening up an indoor cycling studio. Right. And that can only lead to disaster.
Yeah, I just, taking a second here, because just sort of like thinking back to the thesis of this podcast, right? Defining success. And I've been really wanting to get to this point with you, because I'm so curious about how, and in this moment, I can only imagine it had to have felt, forgive me for putting words in your mouth, so please go with it. But okay. I can only imagine feeling totally overwhelmed by this when I open my eyes and go, oh, whoa. How did you manage that? How did you, there's so much to manage. And I'm wondering, where do you get the strength? How do you manage it? How do you keep your eyes on the prize, literally?
It was
what comes
tough.
to mind?
It was really hard because, just to go from 1 to 5 to 20 to what, and we could have 10 studio openings in a month. Just to increase that footprint. That means 100 new instructors that you're dealing with, right? 100 new, CBX, which was our front desk staff. It was just a lot. And when Exponential bought us, I became more of the behind the scenes person. I brought in great people who could do things that I didn't do. And I think finding the right people is really key. But then I was also became the bad guy, because at the time somebody didn't want it, they blame me, which is all part of it, right? Yes, But I also was the gatekeeper. This is the brand, and I've always said this, and people hate that I say this, but if I bought a Subway, I'm vegan. If I put on vegan or plant-based Subway, plant-based LA, I'd be fined. I can't do that. So when you have these franchisees starting to add this and doing that, and it's no longer CycleBar, or it's no longer the brand. Now you can go into this location and you get this, and then you go into this location and there's this. And so I worked really hard at getting everyone on that page. And so it was tough. And
it's
after
easy.
when I think it's somewhere at the 150 mark, it just became, I don't think, I'm going to say this first off, like exponential. Ryan Junk was initially CycleBar president. Trevor Lucas took over CycleBar president. Both of them are friends. I still talk to Trevor a couple times a week. Anthony Geisler, who started Exponential, a lot of bad things have been said about him. But man, that guy, he is not as bad as everyone portrays him to be. He is a brilliant man. He probably, to his own fault, like, he gave to franchisees, somebody was going to close. It's like, no, let me help you out. Here's this.
Right.
Probably too much, right? Because then he'd bail people out and then they just expected to be bailed out, or that someone would tell someone else, and then it got whatever, because he didn't want to see people fail. I think people put him in a light that, I will go down and saying, did he make some not great choices? Sure, I did. I made some not so great choices. We all have in business, and especially when you're that big. If I can go back, would I have made different choices? Absolutely. But I think that there are things that were done that didn't serve us. And I think part of it was, hey, when you go take a company public, which again, never in a million years did I think I'd be a part of that. It changes the whole dynamic, because now you can't be shelling out, hey, I'm going to give you, $100,000 here to do this. You just can't. You got to answer to the streets. You've got a board that you've got to answer to. It's such a different environment. It's tough. And so I think that the scrutiny that he got was unjust. Everyone is, look, we all have faults. And as leaders, sometimes we fail. And, the thing about failing as a leader is that hopefully you look back and you go, oh, and you make amends with it, and you figure out how not to do that again, which I really believe he has gone that route. But I think the demise of Exponential was the day they made him step down. Because these people did not care about any of the brands. And they didn't care about the franchisees, in my opinion. I don't think they cared. And the people who initially came in. I don't know about the new ownership since I left. I think they're maybe a little bit better. I am happy that CycleBar is part of Extraordinary Brands now. I do think one of my people that I love, Jules Peckinpah, she's the head of training there and experience, and she's amazing. Lori Klein, also great. I do believe that they do want success. And so they know in order to do that, they do have to take care of these franchisees and give them what they need. So I sleep better at night knowing that people are being taken care of. But
sorry.
Anyways, it was hard to walk away from it. It was my baby, but I was going to end up sick and dead. It was not, I was not happy. I was so unhappy for over a year and a half, miserable. I wasn't the best Tevia that I was previously. I wasn't the best leader. I wasn't the best parent, spouse, all of it, and so I had removing myself from that. It was, man, the weight lifted. I'll never forget when I got a notification from my Aura ring. I think it was my Aura and whatever, that my state just 180, like stress free. Like I went from fight or flight. I was in fight or flight for at least 5 years of that 10-year, because of it being too much and being pulled in too many directions at once, dealing with, I got thrown into dealing with bike manufacturers and AV people and, everything. It wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think about that first day you wake up after saying your goodbyes, right? And it's like, whew, I'm sure you really could feel the weight of it.
It took a while. Gone. It took months, actually. It took a few months. I took a big trip with the family, like 6 weeks later to Europe. And, both my kids were like, Mom, you're so much happier.
Yeah.
And that's when you go, oh boy, and then I think I got that notification. I was like, wow. And then you go and, as the day goes on and your friends and people, are like, wow, you are a different person. And then really having to dig in and do the work. I had to do the work because how do you take yourself out of, it's really hard to come out of a existence of fight or flight. It's emotional trauma. There was emotional trauma in that thing. And I was somewhat operating in fear, and because they were like, oh, we're going to shut down at any day if you guys keep complaining. And there was just so much on my shoulders. And so I think I just had to process that. I had to forgive myself too I wish I would have, I don't know. I mean, coulda, woulda, shoulda, should I have walked away a year ago?
Right.
There was a time where I kind of look back and what would have happened if I walked away then? Would that have made a difference? Takes sometimes, it's just, God knows, timing is right. And it was right for me to walk away. But it took a lot of me also just, instead of blaming, I had to be like that because this and this and this, it's going, no, I got to take responsibility. Yeah. Of my part in it. And so it was hard. And, from it, I got to learn a lot. And I'm grateful for that.
I would say
10 years there of it. I learned a lot, and I think it will prepare me for whatever it is I do next.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing all of that. It's incredible what you did in your time at CycleBar. It is absolutely incredible. And your heart and your soul, just completely dove in. You gave everything to that, and it showed. It still shows. It's still there, still. And, it's really, I just wanted to stay here for 1 second because I just want to acknowledge that you, it's huge. And, what you did is not easy, man. It's like, we can toss around these numbers, 10 studios a month. Are you kidding me? That is so difficult to do, but especially when you're somebody who feels it so deeply and is so committed to excellence, and what that entails is not something that's easy to replicate once, twice, 3 times, let alone 10 times a month, and then at a scale of over hundreds. To me, it's mind-boggling, and you did it.
I did it
really
with
incredible.
The help of an amazing team. I go back and, there were some people that I pulled in, and Karen Maxwell, Donna Santamano, Jules, who now is in charge of it, Katie Brandt. There were a lot of people along the way who started as instructors. Some I just pulled in, some that I pulled in that were not smart to pull in, but they were just as much responsible Like, I can't take the responsibility of creating what I created without them, because they were, they left right hands the whole time. So maybe the brainchild behind it, and maybe, they contributed just as much of it. And,
yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. I also just want to say that there is like sometimes there's a magnetic force that starts with somebody. So
thank you.
just yeah. So and I do appreciate that, and I hear you. And it is just still to this. It just blows me away because that's a lot to be swimming in and a lot to manage and all of it. So okay, now let's take a second and not just breeze past being diagnosed with MS. And I know that means we have to go back in time a bit. But when did that happen, and how did you learn how to manage that?
So about 2004, I started having symptoms, but just brushed them off. I teach 10, 15 classes, and I was not only teaching, I was taking, right? Any time I could be in Janet's class, I was like, give me that. Like, let me soak it in, Andrew Lewent. I don't know if you know Andrew, taught for us for a while, and like getting into her class, which was a whole nother, that could be a whole episode. She's such a icon. But just trying to take from other people too, to become a better version of me on the bike. And so I just assumed the pins and needles, the stabbing, I would get these like stabbing nerve pain in my feet. I just assumed that it was overtraining and, nothing big, and that I would get more work done on my, I had this chiropractor that would come to the studio and work on me in the middle of the day. I did things like that, but it didn't go away. And it wasn't until I started getting blurred vision. And to the point of where I didn't feel comfortable even getting in a car. Right. And so that's kind of where it hit for me, like, oh God, something's wrong. And so I went to my doctor, who then sent me to a neurologist, who then sent me to have an MRI. And then the results of the MRI came back, with an MS diagnosis. I had 4 lesions in my brain, did the spinal, C-spine, luckily had nothing on my spinal, which was thankful for that. But it was relapsing, remitting MS. And back then, this is 2005. It was it's coming up on my anniversary, because it was my mom's birthday, February 25th, 2025, that I was, or 2005, that I was diagnosed with MS. And I remember going in to see this neurologist who had the most awful bedside manner ever. Like, here I was, like, I didn't even understand it, right? So just, here's some, you have MS. Here's 3, at the time there were 3 medications that were interferon based. They were all injectables. One was once a week, one was 3 times a week, and I think one was daily. And you can't do indoor cycling. You can't overheat. You can't exercise at a high whatever capacity anymore. You can't do A, B, and C. And every time you do this, you're going to inject yourself. You're going to have flu-like symptoms for 24 to 48 hours. And so,
And hold on, how old are you at this point?
I was 44. No, 44 years old. Yeah. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, I was 44. So it was frightening. It was so frightening to be, oh my God, I have this business. What am I going to do? Like, now you're going to tell me I can't do this. And you know, you carry the weight of the world on you. And I know you know this because you had the same, at that time, you had these followings. You know, I had 20, 30 people on a wait list. And sometimes I do that 7, 8, 15, 9, 30, all filled, sold out. And, you know, I'm like, what am I going to do? These people rely on me. How am I going to do this? How am I going to keep this business if I can't do this? How am I going to do this if I have flu-like symptoms and I have to be in bed? And so I remember calling my mom and, you know, telling her, you know, she cried. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And then I ended up saying, you know, they said, we'll call you on Monday. We'll send a nurse to your home who will go over whatever drug you choose to show you how to inject yourself. And I basically was like, this isn't happening to me. And I just said, forget it. And I just went on with my life. I literally was like denial. Such denial. Although I did jump in with the MS Society and got everybody on board. And I did like I think 2 months later, did this like 2-hour, you know, spin-a-thon. We raised $75,000 in a 2-hour ride for the MS Society. And then they roped me into doing the MS bike ride. And I roped in, you know, 25 people to do the MS ride. And I had never been on an outdoor bike, and neither had them. But we raised over $100,000 every time we did it. And I did that. And I had a lot of people, you know, wanting me to do the drug route in that organization. And I just was like, no. Cut to, I had 2 plant-based vegan friends, one being a guy named Mark Dix, who was a client, vegan, really amazing man, kept telling me I needed to go vegan. And then the other, Alicia Silverstone, who did end up putting me in her kind diet, but there's a page on me in there, but, you know, encouraging me to go that route. And so at the time I couldn't wrap my head around it. So I did end up going through this process and becoming plant-based. And every night when I went to bed, I kid you not, I would go to bed. I remember having to pop like 2 Benadryl. And I was popping, you know, a bunch of nothing, not narcotics, but Advil, just to go to sleep, because I'd lay in bed, I'd have the nerve pain. And it was like an ice pick stabbing in my feet. Yeah. And so mainly my left side. And I remember the 30-day mark in bed. And I was like, oh my God. I don't have that pain. Oh my God. And then it became day after day after day. And everything just went away. And with that, mind you, there were not only dietary that I had to eliminate that were causing havoc in my body, but there were also things in my life I had to say no more. People, situations, some really hard ones, very, very difficult ones, and you know, that were traumatizing and were causing me more stress than I could ever, anybody should ever have to endure. So having to let go of that, and then finding peace in that process, and really learning to take care of me, not only physically, what's going in my body, what I'm doing here. That became the new way. And I always get this, you know, there was a while, my sister, God love my sister, but it was this joke every time we'd be at a family event and I'd bring my food, because I didn't expect my mom to start cooking vegan. I would just bring my food, and I brought food everywhere I went. And pretty much now I still do that. But my sister would be like, can't you just cheat this once?
Right.
And I have such an addictive personality that the answer is no, I can't. No. And she doesn't do this anymore, thank God. But we laugh about it. Like she'll be like, oh, this is so good. And I'm like, oh, should I just try it once? And now we make light of it. But I've not strayed from it because why would I? And I get, I've been contacted because of Alicia's book and being in there. So many people over the last 15 years, I think maybe that book was published, have reached out to me that it's not for everyone. You have to be able to, it's not. And some things work, just like some drugs work for some people and it won't work for someone else. You could have one cancer drug that works on this person, but it doesn't work on this person for whatever reason. And I am, thank God every day for it, that changing what I was putting into my body, not depleting my body. I went from teaching, 15 class, taking probably 20, riding 20 times a week.
Yeah.
Working 15 hours a day to peeling back to 6. Mm-hmm. 6 was the number for me. Not destroying my body, allowing my body to take care of itself stress wise. And I did feel moments in CycleBar where I would have to go, oh God, this doesn't feel good for me. And there was a time in I think it was 2023, there was a lot of drama going on at Exponential. And there were moments where I felt not great. And I was like, oh, I feel like I've got some exacerbation happening. I gotta just take care of myself. And I went to my boss, Trevor, and who was the president, and I was like, I just got to take a step back here, And I think I ended up going private on social media and just emptying out my people who followed me. That was huge also for me to do that. And so I think that, doing that for me, it worked. I've never been on medication. And again, there's people who have done the same just by yoga and plant-based diet. Whatever, they're different. Again, it's not for everyone. And I say that because I don't expect every person who gets MS to do it this way, because MS is such a tricky disease. Because there are people like me who have 4 or 5 really bad times, right? And then they've managed. There are people who have twice a year or 3 times a year, they're having relapsing episodes. And so again, and there's no rhyme or reason. It could be some people get primary progressive, and it is debilitating. So I'm blessed that whatever I did that worked for me, do I think I probably had it? Was it maybe in my DNA and I just destroyed myself physically to the point of letting in? And I'm sure you know this, when you're teaching 10 to 15 classes and taking classes 20 up to 20 a week with that combo, you're eating anything you can eat to just keep the weight on. I was eating Krispy Kreme donuts and, hamburgers and, Taco Bell. What? There was nothing. It was just anything just to keep, above 100 pounds. It was just this.
Totally.
It was so crazy to keep the calories going into the body. And so, I feel like there was a lot that was created by me and what I chose to do, and unknowingly, obviously, but I've been fortunate. I feel blessed every day that I have managed in the way that I've managed, and it's worked out well.
Yes. Do you, and talk about success? I mean, that's the ultimate right there. Do you, now that now it's 25 years?
No, it'll
Or
be
20
21
years.
years on the 25th of this month. It'll be 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you have regular checkups? Like, do you get an annual checkup?
I mean,
Do
I
you
go to
do
my
anything like
doctor,
that?
but I don't do MRIs I mean, for the first, I don't know, 5-6 years, I would do MRIs. And that experience of doing a brain MRI with contrast and without is, you're just locked in there it's over an hour and a half by the time they take you out and put you back in for the contrast. And at some point I'm like, this can't be good for me to do this every year. Right. And I'm not. And so I made a deal with my doctor that if I was having symptoms, I would have an MRI. Right. But there's no reason to radiate myself if I don't need to radiate myself. And so that was kind of my mantra. And so that's the way I've done it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because, so much of what you're saying here is, first off, I want to take a second because, when you get a serious diagnosis like that, there's the day before the diagnosis and the day after or the moment after, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everything changes.
Everything.
It's like everything changes. And so it can feel very overwhelming. And especially to your point, when you're in an office and they're wearing the coats and it's, we definitely have this tendency to want an answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's the pamphlets and this is the medicine you're going to take. And it can feel very overwhelming. And I just wanted to hone in on that for a moment, because I think that there's a tendency for people to just be so scared, the day out you get that diagnosis, it's fucking scary. And to be able to take a step back as you did, and I'm sure with the people in your life, you had the support that you needed to go, I'm going to try this first. Well, this is after your denial.
Well, I was in denial for a little bit there. It was a good few months that I was 6-7 months that I was in complete denial and was like, well, I can live with this. Like, and I, as a result, have the craziest high pain tolerance that no doubt most people wouldn't be able to manage.
Right.
Even when I fractured my tibia last year in June, I didn't go to the doctor I came home. I actually took a spin class, and then, I subbed a spin class. Somebody needed a sub, and they were like, would you teach? And I was like, sure. It was at CycleBar in Burbank. And I was like, yeah, I got it. And I taught it. And I was like, I didn't feel right. And then I was like, I don't know, maybe I should go get this checked out. And then when I had the MRI, and like the doctor's like, it's fractured. I'm like, how did you not, like, how? And I was limping a little bit, but like my wife is like, you are crazy. The amount of pain that you can handle, which isn't a good thing, by the way. That's never a good thing in my book. I think that, I wish I wasn't in that, but I think that couple years pre the diagnosis and that time after that, I just kind of got used to it. So my tolerance grew. But I'm fortunate that I had an amazing mom. My mom went to every MRI with me, every doctor's appointment. Wow. She sat in the room talking to me while I had my MRI because, it was so much. Obviously, it's just a scary time. So she was the anxiety of like, oh my God, is there another lesion? Is it active? Is it whatever? And once you get diagnosed with something, I think any test you do, there's fear with it because you're like, oh, it's going to be bad. But I just had my mom was so amazing. My partner was amazing. My everybody. My friends were amazing. And you also, at that time, I did weed out some people that I needed to weed out, you know? But
like an overhaul.
some amazing, you know, there were amazing things that have happened through it. And honestly, I tell my kids this all the time. I say, and my wife, I'm like, if I am on my deathbed, and this is my mom did this because she died of cancer. And, you know, at the end, she's like, one of the things when she could still eat, she's like, go drive through and get me an In-N-Out burger. So here I am, the vegan, you know, in line, going and getting the double with grilled onions for her. And then the other thing she wanted was, and it's so disgusting to me, was a breakfast sandwich from Jack in the Box. But I just like, okay,
Really?
these are your last meals. What? Okay. But we both shared a love for, there's an amazing restaurant
That's awesome.
here, and it's this diner, and it's called Talleyrand, and it's famous around, but they make turkeys every day, fresh turkeys every day. And they had the most amazing hot turkey sandwich. So I tell my kids two things: that if I'm dying and I'm in that place where I can have my last meals, I want the hot turkey sandwich from Talleyrand and I want a Mexican pizza from Taco Bell. Because I would eat Mexican pizzas. There's a Taco Bell like a block from Body&Soul. I just like walk down there, run down there, whatever, get my, you know, it was comical. But those are the things I would want, you know. And of course, like my son is like, well, the Mexican pizza is seasonal. I'm like, I don't care who you need to reach out to. Like, you go on my phone, reach out to Trevor Lucas, who was the president of CycleBar, who's a dear friend, but he also prior to CycleBar, worked for Taco Bell. I'm like, he'll know someone who can get me
pull strings, kids.
the damn Mexican pizza on my deathbed. So those are my things. But other than that, I don't miss it. There's, you know, when I first became vegan, there was nothing on the market. Real Food Daily was it. And all the celebrity vegans would be there. It was awesome. But really, it's evolved so much that I can get food anywhere. And in the beginning, I ate a lot of beans and tofu and rice, brown rice and broccoli. That was like, I could eat it every day. It doesn't bother me. You know, when even when I travel now, I'll make, you know, I'll either bring Ezekiel bread with peanut butter packs, and I can eat peanut butter sandwiches. That's even on the long trip to Europe, right? Even though they had an amazing plant-based meal for me on the plane. And we had Delta One. So the restaurant at LAX, Delta One, is amazing. Best vegan food I've ever had. But there's so much, but I still always pack with me vegan options. You know, I've got my bag of tricks. And it's good. I just feel better. I have no doubt that eating this way has helped me in every aspect of my aging process. Right?
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's helped me tremendously in the aging process. So I don't miss it, so to speak. But if I were to be on my deathbed and I could eat a meal, hot turkey sandwich and Mexican pizza.
Yeah. So that makes so much sense to me. Yeah, it is interesting. Like I've been vegetarian most of my life since I was a kid, and vegan for like my adult life. But just quick note here, it wasn't until I learned that there was sugars in my diet that I wasn't aware of when I did this like sugar detox that changed everything. Like sugar had snuck in ways that I didn't even realize, you know, and man, it was like a game changer. You talk about feeling like a new person, right?
Yeah, so and I think there's diet stuff that might affect you that wouldn't affect me, right?
Exactly.
Like I'm that person that if I'm out for dinner and I want to have a espresso at the end of the night, I can do that. I can go right to bed. Yeah. Caffeine does not amp me up. It doesn't do that. But some people, like my wife, if she had an espresso, she'd be up till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Forget about it. She can't even drink coffee on the regular because she gets all. But, I think that there is thing, and sugar, obviously your thing that did that.
It's just so interesting. So it's, thank you for sharing all this, because I just think what I'm really hearing and taking away from this for people who hear it is, it's like, whatever health concerns are going on, we all have them, right? Some more severe than others. The key is to really listen to yourself and take a moment. For you, there was a moment of denial, and that was a part of your process. And I think a lot of us go through that. But once, you get through that, then sort of like take a moment and really listen to yourself before jumping to any conclusions, right?
Yeah,
just
and try different things. Yeah. Something, again, it's like, there's no one size fits all. Nope. And our bodies are unique in every way. Yes, we all have certain chromosomes and things that are the same. We all have a heart. We all have, some might not have a heart, but no, I'm kidding. But we all have the same organs and so forth, but different makeup and genetically what my body responds to is going to be different. That's why there's never judgment. I don't judge. I will barbecue a steak for my kids. Like, I have no problem giving. I don't, again, it's going to be organic, and I am a stickler to those kind of things. But again, no judgment. What worked for me, by the grace of God, again, every day I'm grateful that it worked for me. And, some people tell me, oh, I tried being plant-based, but I was tired all the time, and maybe so. And that's okay. That's your body. I'm never tired. Yeah. Unless I'm up because of some reason I can't go to sleep, which is rare. I'm a pretty good sleeper. It doesn't do that with me. And again, I think that's so important, because I'm not, everybody who has MS should go plant-based. No.
But of course not.
Try it. Yeah. Try it and see if it works, because it might not work. It could make it worse. It could make it better. Yes. Going on the high protein diet. Again, there is no one size fits all when it comes to diet.
Totally. Yeah. So with all of that said, and everything that all of your lived experiences, Tevia, I mean, from being a PI, okay, to opening the first indoor cycling boutique studio, to then coming on board with Flywheel, and all that entailed, right? There was a lot of stuff that went on there. And, and then getting into that whole Flywheel soul cycle thing, right? And like you were in that, and like, then, taking on everything you took on at CycleBar, and through all of this, taking on MS and figuring out the best path forward for you and your family. What are you doing now? Because you have such a wealth of knowledge. So what is Tevia Celli doing now?
I'm a health and wellness coach, but I'm also a consultant. I consult mostly, for the most part, I consult a lot for businesses, a lot of former CycleBars that have rebranded, and now are no longer CycleBar, but called something else. I've done a lot of local gym in my community that I've been really involved with, and changing up some stuff and just elevating some parts of the gym and the experience. So that's really what I'm doing. I have some big goals ahead of me. I'm a big believer. I think that the last few months for me have been, there's something more. I thought maybe because of the coming out of that, I want to say the detox of CycleBar, I thought I was just going to be semi-retired, right? And I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I have a lot to offer, and I want to get back in the mix of doing something bigger than just consulting. So, I've got some ideas, but, I bet you can, it's definitely, there's wellness. And I don't mean wellness as in hyperbaric chambers and cold plunge and saunas and that, but just a community, bringing people together in a space to help them feel better. But yeah, there's something.
Yeah.
There's some things brewing. That's just can't say a lot.
I like it. It's interesting because I love that you sort of took the word wellness for a moment and sort of like were clear on your angle with it, because it is a word that I just said this, I think in another interview like earlier this week actually, that like I'm really cautious with that word because it's becoming much more than I intended it. Like when I use that word, so it's interesting to hear you say that.
It's a different thing because and again, I love sauna. I do sauna, which is so funny because they told me never to overheat my body. And it's like, I love to sweat I'm in the sauna like 5 days a week. I love it. It's a detox for me. There's so much there. But, I think there's so many of these components are really great. And again, there's no one size fits all. What might work for my body and feel really good on my body is not going to feel good for somebody else's body. And that's great that there's so many different options nowadays. But yeah, I'm more of a wellness, mind, body, spirit.
Totally. I'm with you. Yeah. And I love, by the way, love a sauna and a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Love it. Bring it. Love all that stuff. And in fact, I haven't done the hyperbaric.
I haven't done that either.
Chamber. I've done it once and I haven't done it since then, but you got it. It's really cool.
I might have to try it. I think it's that really there's, look, recovery. I wish some of these things existed when I was in the height of the 15 classes and then taking 5 more a week, because maybe I wouldn't have depleted my body so much to let that MS come out. Mm-hmm. If there were certain things that I can go in a cold plunge and, recover, because there was zero recovery happening at that time.
Zero. Let's be clear about this to everybody.
Zero recovery. We didn't recover from anything. So I think I love that there is so much available for people now. So I'm not dissing that form of recovery in any way, shape, or form.
Of course not. Yeah. No, but I just love the idea of the way you framed wellness. Is just really love it. Such good stuff. So here we are. I get to ask you the burning question. Tevia Celli, how do you define success?
I define success the most when I know I am successful where I'm at, because that changes all the time. When I can close my eyes at night and let go and go to sleep, because I'm not successful at the things I'm doing when my mind is filled with thoughts and I'm not, is opening 250 CycleBars in less than 5 years success to some people? Yes, on a business level. But for me, it's constantly evolving. I don't think that it's being clear. It's being clear. It's being clear. It's being accountable. It's being able to be humble and have humility and grace and look at my kids. I'm successful as a parent when I can look at my kids and say, I'm so sorry, I just screwed up. That's success to me. It's not a bank account. It's not, I've checked off a lot of what I think a lot of people view as success, but I'm a work in progress. and, stumble often and, have to apologize often. So
Wow.
that's my definition of success, is being able to, recognize when I falter, be accountable, make the changes, release it, and be able to go to sleep at night.
Damn, that was good. Yeah, that's super powerful. Thank you, Tevia. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. I can't wait to clip that. That was really good. This was amazing. And I just want to just say, like, there were so many times that our paths kind of crossed, but they never really joined together. And before we got on this today, I had a little moment where I was like, I kind of wish that we had a deeper connection back then.
Yeah, me too.
I kind of do. And I think we both agree it's not about regret. It's just sort of like, I wonder what could have happened.
But what can happen? It's what can happen.
But now we're here.
Right? It's
that's right.
Timing is everything.
That's
because
exactly
you're not the
where I
same
landed with
you're
it.
not the same Marion back then in 2012 and 13. I'm not the same Tevia as I was 6 months ago, even.
No.
Thank God. Like, right? It's just
it's just like,
and definitely not the same one in 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So it's all timing, and you intersect at the right time.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's like exactly where I landed with it. I was like, no, it's now. So I'm just really grateful for that.
Thank you.
Grateful for you. This is awesome, and just thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I can't wait to hang out with you and have a meal. Yes. I'm going to take you to the best vegan restaurant in Los Angeles.
I'm so psyched. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.